Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dynasty Diehards here on the Razzball Network. Today, we have a fantastic show for you. We have some buys and sells locked in at every position, and let's get right to it. All right, Matt. So the first person I want to talk about here on my buys and sells, we're going to start quarterback here. We're going to go buy, and I'm going to go with a guy that I didn't think I would be talking about at this point, Jordan Love. Matt, Jordan Love. Now, there were a lot of questions about him coming into this season, but then he finished QB, I think maybe it was QB 10. Right now, he's sitting at QB 11 in my rankings. I just moved him up 3 slots, but I think even at QB 11, he's a buy right now.
I think that's really low. And I was listening to Dynasty Nerds yesterday, and they were doing a mock startup, Superflex mock startup, and somebody took him at 109. So I know if he's going at 109 overall, he's clearly ahead of QB 11 in their ranks. And it probably puts him, they probably got Justin Jefferson and maybe 1 or 2 other wide receivers ahead of Jordan Love. But I think that means that they probably have him closer to QB 7. And I don't blame them. Green Bay has a history of taking on a QB and letting them rule the roost for 10 to 12 years. And they've got the same situation with their front office and their coaches. It's just a really strong organization. And if he takes up the mantle and is the guy for the next, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, then I think he's easily above QB 11. And he would definitely be a buy if you can get him at that price, say a late second startup. I don't know. I'd be very happy paying any 2 firsts that come after 107 this year.
Okay.
So let's say 108 and 19 or 108 and a 25 first. I just think he's really solid. He's probably in that tier, right? He's probably topping Tua and Trevor Lawrence, or he's right in that area.
Yeah, and I can't argue with you on that. I'm looking at, I just pulled up Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings, their ECR. They've got Jordan Love at 12. So I'm a shade higher on him than Fantasy Pros is. And with Dynasty Nerds, I can absolutely see them being higher on him than I am right now. But like you said, man, this is a team that they like to let these quarterbacks run for 10, 12 years. And Jordan Love is in a perfect position. He's in that Aaron Rodgers position coming off of Brett Favre era in Green Bay. I think Jordan Love is a guy that at some point, we're going to have him in the top 5 of dynasty quarterbacks. I think you should be buying him right now. Whatever you need to pay to get him, if you're looking for a quarterback, I don't think there's someone that's really going to do any better for you than Jordan Love in this market. Now, let's move on to my buy running back, our buy running back here. And this is more of a win now type situation if you're buying this guy.
Isn't every buy running back a win now move?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, but a lot of people are selling Derrick Henry because of age and because they're like, no, he can't keep this up. I would like to remind everyone that Derrick Henry is a freak. He is not your typical running back. He's an all-time great running back. These guys tend to play a lot longer. He's going to be 30 this year. I think he moves on to another team, but I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. I likened it to Emmitt Smith moving on to Arizona. Was he his Dallas self? No, he wasn't. But he was still a viable fantasy asset those years that he was in Arizona. And I know this because I'm old, Matt, and I drafted him a few times.
I know you're about to be even older tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to be 42. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, happy early birthday, Nate.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, with Derrick Henry right now, I've got him sitting at RB17, and that's basically because of his age. Talent-wise, I still think he's probably a top 12 running back, but I'm willing to buy right now because I think 2024, he could have an RB1 tier season.
Sure. I'd say redraft, he's easily in the RB1 range, Dynasty RB2 range. But since we like to look at Dynasty RBs on a very short-term spectrum, I think that the spread on Dynasty versus redraft in running back ranks should never be as far apart as it is right now. I think that if we were guaranteed 2 more years, he's easily worth a 25 first, easily. And I think, if we get 1 more solid year out of him, I'd happily give the 201.
Do you think we can get 3 solid seasons out of him? Or maybe 2 solid and 1 where he's like, he kind of slid that back end RB2, but it's okay because we got more out of him the last 2 years than we were expecting.
I've never had Derrick Henry on any teams, redraft or dynasty, until this last season, and I think I'm probably at about 25%. It'll probably work its way up to 50% as people start realizing that they're not contending and they need to get rid of him for anything. Yeah, I'm going to keep on buying him, and he's going to retire on my bench in most of my leagues.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Derrick Henry is someone that you should be investing in, especially at cost right now. He's a guy that could still be a league winner, and that's what it's all about, right? That's what we're here for. We have got a question here in the chat from Facebook user from our Facebook group, the Dynasty Diehards group on Facebook. Please go check us out there. Sell Derrick Henry or Tony Pollard in Dynasty. I'm not selling Derrick Henry, as we are talking about right now, but Tony Pollard is a sell for me, Matt.
Okay. I might be on the other side of that, only because we forget that going into last year, he missed the end of the 2022 season because he had a broken fibula. I think he had a broken lower leg, and he came back slow, and he started doing well towards the end of the season. Another thing that we don't take into account is that he, I think he had 17 rushes from within the 5-yard line, and I don't know if he converted a single one of them. So that variance is crazy, crazy low. And if he even got half of them, we would be talking about him as being worth a first still.
Okay, but you could make the same argument about DeAndre Swift, right? He gets all these goal line carries. He can't punch it in. What makes you think that Tony Pollard is going to be able to convert those? I don't think he can. He's not that kind of back. That's why Ezekiel Elliott was so important to Tony Pollard's value, because now they're asking him to do that other stuff, and they couldn't get Rico Dowdle to do it. Ronald Jones got suspended and then released. They really didn't have anyone else in that backfield last season, and I think that really negatively affected Pollard. Now, if they go out and they get a guy like a Zeke type back who can do more of that short yardage stuff,
or a Derrick Henry type back,
or a Derrick Henry. I mean, could you imagine Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard in Dallas?
I bet if Derrick
actually get them a playoff.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. I think it might raise both of their values, and I bet if somebody had Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry, and they both went to, and they were both playing for the Cowboys next year, I bet you could get both of them for a 25 first, and I would definitely want to do that. You might get a Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, Chargers situation. I like it.
Yep, me too. All right, well, let's move on to our next buy here, and I love this guy, Drake London in Atlanta. And things are looking up, man. Raheem Morris coming in. It looks like he's already changing that culture. He's talking about getting guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts more involved in this offense, which is what we really want to hear. And he knows that Desmond Ridder isn't it at quarterback. Their starting quarterback isn't even on their roster right now. I'm all in on Drake London. I have got him at wide receiver. Let me go over here and look. I've got him at wide receiver 17. I think he climbs higher as we get closer to the season, and as we start to see what Raheem Morris is going to do with this offense. We start to get a look at OTAs after the draft, who their quarterback is. Do they get Justin Fields? I've been hearing some rumors that there's a deal that might be very close to being in place with Atlanta for Justin Fields. So I'm all about Drake London. I think that this is a massive time to buy him. He's cheaper than he is going to be in 3 months.
I wonder if we could, without delaying the show, pull up some recent trades with Drake London, because I wonder what the Dynasty community as a whole is thinking about him, because I think a lot of people might be thinking the same thing as you. They see his underlying metrics, they see his target share in his first season or two, and they see that what he can do with reasonable targets. He had such a high uncatchable target rate this, under Desmond Ridder and under Marcus Mariota. And once they get a halfway competent QB to throw to him, if he can keep that target share, his capability would put him in the top 12 pretty quickly. And I wonder if people are already valuing him as such. And if that's the case, he might be hard to buy. I don't know.
I'm trying to get it pulled up here. And there might be a lot of people who are in on this like we are, like we're talking about him now. But I don't think the majority of players are that caught up. Does that make sense? A lot of people aren't paying attention right now, which is why you should be watching our show, because we're going to give you stuff that other managers aren't going to hear because they're not paying attention. So let's see here. I'm going to look for Drake London. Matt, I'm really in on this offense now.
Let me ask you this.
I was completely out on it before.
Real quick hypothetical. If they were to get Kirk Cousins and they did not add a receiver, would you where would you have him compared to Tyreek Hill, where you know what their production is going to be for at least 1 and possibly 2 years before Tyreek says he's going to retire before the 2026 season? Would you rather 2 years of Tyreek's play or Drake London for the rest of his career if he gets a good, reliable QB this year?
I would have to say that I would prefer Tyreek because that upside for those 2 years is league-winning upside. You're not going to necessarily – I love Drake London. I think he's going to be great, but you're not going to get Tyreek Hill type of production at any point out of Drake London during his career. I don't care how good he is. I don't care who his quarterback is. Tyreek Hill is a one-of-a-kind. So I'm taking Tyreek Hill all day there.
Tyreek is a one-of-a-kind, and it's important to remember when you see rankings of how they ended. In points per game, Tyreek was probably 1 or 2, and – that's important to get, the 1 or 2 over the 5 or 6, because there might be 100-point difference over 17 games.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a good point. All right, so here's what I'm seeing. The first trade that came up, I'm on playerprofiler.com using their trade finder. It's a fantastic tool. 2025 first for Drake London straight up, 12-team standard. That was on MFL. And then we have got Pickens in a 2024 first. For London, a 2025 second, 2025 third. I don't think his value is quite caught up to where we're at.
I think you're right. If you're talking about those
one trade. Yep, except for that one trade. So
I'm catching whisperings of 25 being a bad class. Have you heard anything like that?
A little bit, but dude, they said that about last year. They said that about this year's class. And it's going to turn out to be outside of quarterback. I really feel like this is a pretty good class for fans. Okay,
so what I did hear is that quarterbacks in 2025 are going to be bad after Shedeur Sanders. There's really nothing there to be looking forward to in next year's quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, and that sucks. That's a 2-year void at quarterback, really, in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see how teams kind of go around that. I want to acknowledge a couple people here in the chat. We've got our boy Toronto Dave saying, let's go, Dave. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have got Jamie Parag. Thank you, Jamie, for always supporting us and tuning in. And Jamie says, I heard running backs are better in 2025. Jamie, I have heard that as well. Matt, have you heard that?
No, but I believe it. I believe it because I think that there was always going to be a gap for when NIL money caught up to keeping running backs in the college game longer, because if they're able to make more in college, because that's where they're really celebrated. That's where teams really love them. They're, they're a lot of times they're like the most popular guy on the team. They might as well ride that out for another year, which is going to keep them from entering the draft in 2024. And a little bit, we kind of saw that a little bit in 2023. We're seeing it in 2024, and I think it's going to catch up. But that makes this another good reason to go buy people like Derrick Henry or all these 26 and 27-year-olds. We like to think that they're going to get replaced, but that just might not happen this year or next. Until next year's rookies start catching up to the NFL level.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. All right, now we're going to move to our favorite position. One of my favorite buys right now is Dalton Kcade. We loved what we saw out of him at the end of last season. And now we're looking at a team that is going to let Gabe Davis go in free agency. Stephon Diggs is on the decline. He's still under contract for the next 2 seasons, but the team could realistically rework that and release him or trade him. I think Dalton Kcade now is stepping into a lot of volume in an offense that likes to throw the ball because they just simply can't run it outside of Josh Allen effectively. I want all of the Dalton Kcade right now.
Sure. And you know what? He is locked into that rookie contract with a long-term contract with his quarterback, Josh Allen. Like you said, the Stephon Diggs situation there is a little bit tenuous. I don't know if that's going to hold. Gabe Davis is a free agent, and it might be Dalton Kcade sharing targets with Khalil Shakir and a rookie. And that might be their offense next year.
Yep. I've seen some people saying, well, but Dawson Knox is still there.
Nah.
I don't care about Dawson Knox.
Is he even real? Is that a real person anymore?
No, I think he's fake. Figment of our imagination. Dawson Knox isn't real, guys. Go buy Dalton Kcade. I mean, I think reasonably, now I'm not trying to be hot takey here, but I think reasonably Dalton Kcade by the end of this season could be the dynasty tight end 1 over Sam Laporta. I think the talent's there. I think the only thing that kept him behind Laporta this past season, 2023, was volume. Because Gabe Davis, because Stephon Diggs, because he was a rookie and they had Dawson Knox, they were able to bring him in slowly. And now I think he's full go in 2024. We could see 120, 130 targets to Dalton Kcade. And if he has that kind of volume, he's probably the tight end one.
I wonder where they're both going ADP wise in Superflex startup, because if it's a 2-round difference or something like that, if it's, Sam Laporta beginning of the 3rd, Dalton Kcade middle of the 5th, could you sell Laporta for Kcade in the 1st? Because I'm doing that all day.
Oh, you probably could actually.
Interesting.
I bet you could.
Let's go scratch that Dynasty offseason itch. If
I'm in
anybody
2
hasn't,
startups right now. So I got that. I'm scratching that itch, but they're my only 2 startups of the season because I've had 5 leagues fold, so it's been kind of a relief. Dude,
can I tell you something? I've never had a league fold, and that's probably 17 leagues over 3 years.
I've had probably like 7 or 8 different leagues fold.
Okay.
It's fine.
Damn.
It happens. Yeah, it happens.
What are the warning signs? What leagues do you see usually fold? What's a symptom?
When a lot of users or a lot of managers start to get inactive, especially in season, and you get to the end of the season and they're not setting lineups, and you kind of like, okay, they got burnt out on it, so we're done.
Damn.
Which is a bummer, but it happens. I've never orphaned a team though, so I'm very proud of that. I've never orphaned a team. So speaking of orphans, well, not really. We're just going to talk about our first sell here. It's Trevor Lawrence. Don't yell at me. Look, I'm just not sold on him.
I sold the only Trevor Lawrence that I drafted last year for JSN and 2 firsts. And I'm happy with that, even though JSN is more disappointing than Trevor Lawrence, simply because it was a 4-point passing touchdown league. And quarterbacks are just not worth as much in that, especially non-running quarterbacks. And he's mobile, but he's not really asked to run. I think that he spent a lot of time injured, and I think that his receivers spent a lot of time injured, and I think he had more wide receiver dropped passes than anybody else in the league. There's a lot of signs showing that there's a breakout coming, but if you're uncomfortable, I won't fault you one bit for selling at what his market value is right now, because I think he's still going early 2nd round of startup drafts.
Yeah, he's still going early 2nd.
At that price, what would it take you to sell Trevor Lawrence in let's say, just split the difference between 4-point and 6-point passing. Let's say it's a 5-point passing touchdown league, Superflex. What would it take for you to sell Trevor Lawrence for Tyreek? Speaking of Tyreek again.
For Tyreek?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. I feel like I'd have to throw something in on the Lawrence side to get Tyreek.
Really? I bet that you could.
I feel like I'd have to toss in like a 2nd-round pick.
See, I like playing in a lot of leagues and playing portfolio style, because you think of you structure a trade around an idea, and then you go find a league where that'll fit. And I bet if you had Trevor Lawrence in a league, you could probably sell him to a rebuilding or retooling manager for Tyreek plus Matthew Stafford. And that'd be a very nice win now. Interesting.
I don't hate it.
Go for it. I'm sure you don't have any Trevor Lawrence at this point.
I do, and I'm trying to sell him off.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We should make a show out of just I'd like to fashion a few trades and play with them and see what we can do and bring it to the stream.
That's definitely a great idea. I love it. No, we've got some comments in the chat here. I want to get to a question. Theo Darling, are we buying or selling Tank Dell? I am buying all of the Tank Dell. All of it.
I bought one this offseason so far. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I like to do multi-positional trades, a lot of cross-positional. So I sold Pat Mahomes and Goddard simply because I still love Goddard. I think that he's probably a buy right now because you could probably get him for an early mid-second. And you should be able to because of what he's been doing. But I sold Pat Mahomes, Dallas Goedert, and a 3rd for CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and a 2nd. So I moved down from Mahomes to Stroud, just barely, according to market value, even though I think Mahomes is leagues ahead of Stroud. And I was able to, give away Goddard and a third for Tank Dell in a second. And just because of those two upgrades, I'm very happy with that. I love Tank Dell. I think that he could be the number one on that team. Nico, he was killing it, but I think Tank Dell might have even been better in games that they were both playing together, which is crazy because all of the games that they played together were in the front half of Tank Dell's rookie season. And it usually takes them a while to warm up, but I think he was averaging over 17 points a game. That's a lot of promise to a team that is probably going to be building around those three players for the immediate future. CJ Stroud with Tank Dell, the guy that he asked for, the guy that they moved up to take, and Nico Collins, who's going into the last year of his rookie contract. So, Tank Dell's definitely a buy. I love that.
Yep. No, I'm buying all the Tank Dell.
What's the most you'd pay for him for a straight up rookie pick or for two straight up rookie picks?
If I have a late first, I'd probably give up a late first for him.
I'm wondering if 108 is where you are, because I think that we say that there's a big drop off after the 106, but I think JJ McCarthy is going to work his way into that top tier. I think that Rome Odunze might work his way into the top tier, and there also might be another sleeper that works his way up. Let's say the Chiefs get Brian Thomas at the end of the first. He's going to work his way in. It might be, it might be the 109 might be the tier break. So that's another little piece of advice is if you poke around your leagues and see who's at the 108, 109, and they're pretty disillusioned with it, I'd feel very good about moving back from 106 to 108 for a second and a third or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to buy him right now, Tank Dell, for the 108, but that's definitely where it sits with me. And that might be what it takes.
I'm okay paying that because I think he is the lead receiver. Friend of the show, Andrew Cooper here just commented. He says that Tyreek Hill turns 30 today. So I'm just slightly, just under 12 years older than Tyreek Hill. So happy March.
Yeah, you basically share a birthday with him. So happy birthday, Tank Polvogt and Tyreek Hill.
And Method Man. Method Man's birthday is tomorrow. I've got some cool birthdays on mine.
And Andrew Cooper. It's his birthday as well. That's probably why he's bringing it up today and tomorrow.
Oh, all right. Well, happy birthday, Andrew. 2-day
happy birthday, Andrew.
Pretty awesome. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to get to our next sell here. This is a Miami Dolphin that everyone just really loved. And I love the talent, but I'm selling Devon Anan because this is still Mike McDaniel's offense. There's still Raheem Mostert. There's still Jeff Wilson. And this is still a team that runs through Tyreek Hill. Not to say that Anan can't be good, because I think he will be good. I just don't think that he's ranked too high. RB7.
Oh, wow. That is very high. Where is he consensus ranked compared to ETN?
He is higher than ETN. Let me pull that up here. On the consensus here, Fantasy Pros has Devon Anan at RB7. Etienne at RB6.
Okay, so Etienne, that's higher than I think I've seen him until this point in the offseason, which is crazy because he has, and he should, because he was the overall running back 2. They love him. He's with his college quarterback. I don't know why Etienne is so undervalued or disrespected. He doesn't have tread on the tires from his first year. I think that he and Achane, you could argue either way, and I'd be on board with it, especially just to hear the arguments. But so to get out of Jeff Wilson's contract, it would cost only $780,000 in dead cap, according to Spot Track. I don't know that Jeff Wilson's going to be there next year. I don't think that they're going to replace him in this year's draft.
Why would you?
I don't think that we need to worry too much about Jeff Wilson. And Jeff Wilson really didn't get any, even for the minimal touches that he had, he wasn't producing last year. So I get that he has a relationship. I get that he has a past relationship with Mike McDaniel, both of them coming from the 49ers. Same with Mostert, both of them coming from the 49ers. I just don't know that we should account for Jeff Wilson at all as far as Devon Anan in Dynasty. And Raheem Mostert, he would only cost $650,000 for them to cut this year, but he would cost $4 million for them to keep. So Mostert, who's going to be 32 years old, and Jeff Wilson, who's also, kind of might have hit that age cliff a year ago. It would only cost $1.5 million for them to cut both of them, but I think it would cost about $7 million for them to keep both of them. I don't think that we should account for them in looking at Devon Anan dynasty value or even 2024 value.
I can't see the team, especially, and I care more about Raheem Mostert than I do Jeff Wilson.
Fair. You should.
To your point. Yeah, Jeff Wilson's kind of, we're done with Jeff Wilson.
He's cuttable in Dynasty. Mostert is not, just because you want to hold on and see if he does what he did again this year.
And that's why I don't think Miami's going to move on from Mostert. Why would they?
I agree with you.
Cheap. He played so freaking well last season. He was a big part of them making the playoffs. I don't see why they would move on from him. Achan's a great piece, but I'm moving him right now. I don't trust that it's going to go the way everyone wants it to go in that backfield. And I'd rather not expose myself to that because I like winning.
I bet you could sell Achan for your buy, Derrick Henry, and a 25 first.
You can. 100%.
Would you do that?
Absolutely, I would do that.
Ooh.
I don't have any Achan shares, so I can't do that.
I love that we always come up with these buy sells and we're like, you got to sell this guy. I would, but I don't have any of them. Well,
and that's why, but that's exactly it. I didn't buy it in the first place, but if I had, I'd be selling him right now. I don't think his value is going to get much higher than it is right now. Now we're going to move on to another player, Matt, and this is from your home there in New Orleans. I am selling Chris Olave.
Speaking of Tyreek Hill, I saw a trade go down in my favorite league yesterday, and somebody sold Olave plus 205 plus their 25 second. Olave mid-second, 25 second for Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill seems to be the theme of the show today.
Sure does.
I love that trade. I don't know which side I would take because the 25 second and the 205 might make up for Tyreek Hill's, included with Olave's longevity. I don't know which side of it. I don't know if I would take any side of that trade. I just love the trade.
I'd take the Tyreek side probably. But if I
probably would too. But that's a problem.
If I took the Olave side, I'd keep the picks and I'd deal Olave for more. See if I can get 2 more picks for Olave. What he's going for right now. Got it pulled up on Player Profiler. The first trade that comes up 13 hours ago, Justin Jefferson for Olave and 225 first rounders. Then 3 days ago, we've got Olave and a 2024 second for Kyron Williams. So that's kind of where his value's at now. Olave for Rashad White in third. Olave for Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra. Olave in a first.
Wait, no. Not Olave for Amon-Ra and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor and Olave.
No, Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra St. Brown for Chris Olave. That's the trade.
No, that's crazy.
That is, but that's why we have to talk about this stuff. That is crazy. That's too much.
That's like misprint crazy. Oh man.
Well, it is called the League of Yucks. So
maybe they have reverse scoring or something like that because there's in my favorite league. It's such a fun league. There's so much trading going on, and it's gotten to the point where I've almost made a complete team out of initials players. I know we're not supposed to talk about our teams, but just for a sec. So I've got CJ Stroud, I've got CJ and AR at quarterback. I've got ETN at running back. I got DJ Moore, AJ Brown, TJ Hawkinson. I'm trying to pick up JT and ARSB, and it's going to cost me like 5 firsts. So yeah, if Olave is selling for that, it's something screwy with that league. But if he gets even half of that value, I mean, I would add a first to Olave for Amon-Ra St. Brown very easily without hesitation.
Oh, same. So quickly. My issue really though with Olave, and then we'll move on to our sell tight end. We've got some questions in the chat I really want to get to here. I love the talent. I loved him coming out of Ohio State. I hate the situation. I hate that Dennis Allen is his head coach. I hate that Derek Carr is his quarterback. And I just don't like that Saints offense. I don't think it's good for Chris Olave. I've got him at wide receiver 11. I think that actually, honestly, is probably a little too high for him. I think he's probably more realistically wide receiver 18 to 20.
I was going to say
that wide receiver 2 tier, but if you want
to put him exactly where Drake London is, I think that his Drake London situation over the last 2 years is probably what Olave's situation is going to be over the next 2 years, as far as their off target percentage. Drake London has just not been getting good targets. Olave is not going to be utilized the way that he should be. I think that we're looking at 2 more years of what Olave has been, which is kind of a mid wide receiver 2 who's got age and hype around him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, well, I want to get to some of these questions in the chat here before we move on to our sell tight end. Guys, we appreciate the questions. We appreciate you tuning in. We're here to help. We have a new viewer, Emiliano Andujar. Emiliano, thank you so much for tuning in. Would you trade the rookie 110 for Kenneth Walker, Corez, Purdy, Bryce Young, Etienne, Derrick Henry, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Dalton Kcade, Garrett Wilson, Jordan Addison, Tank Dell, Superflex tight end premium? Or, second part to this question, should I sell the pick for something else or hold the pick for possibly Troy Franklin, Bo Nix, Worthy, etc.? Okay, so I'm going to start here.
Can you put up that first part of the question again?
Yes.
And Emiliano, I'd really like for you to put the starting roster format. How many wide receivers, how many flexes can start? Because that'll be the deciding factor.
Yeah, okay, now before we get back to that one, hopefully Emiliano can drop that in the chat here. Are you buying or selling Ty Chandler with the Alexander Battison news? What's his current value from Jamie? I'm not buying Ty Chandler. I'm not going to buy into an offense that doesn't run the ball.
And I don't think that their starting running back is on their roster right now.
No, it's definitely not going to be Ty Chandler.
If somebody wants to sell him for a third, fourth swap, I'll take Ty Chandler, but otherwise, no, it's not really somebody that I'm looking into.
Right, same. Okay, let's go back to this. I don't know if we're going to hear back in the chat from Emiliano, and if we do, we can amend our answer. So I'm just going to assume it's pretty standard. 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, couple of flex slots, super flex. Generally what we see with this. No, I am not trading Kenneth Walker for the 110. I don't believe in Kenneth Walker at all.
Which you're not trading 110 for Kenneth Walker?
No. I would move if I had Kenneth Walker. I would take the 110 for him if someone wants to give me that. But no, I'd hold that pick. But don't take Bo Nix.
You know what? The 110 is so flexible that I wouldn't lock into selling it for Ken Walker right now. I think that if you really wanted to make a move with 110, you could probably. We'll bring up Matt Stafford again. You could probably get Matt Stafford and Charbonnet. And I would rather have that than just one singular Ken Walker, especially since you're only super flex in that. You got Purdy and you have Bryce Young. Bryce Young is not ready to compete. And correct. I think that if you're buying a running back right now, it should be the last piece that you need. And it's not if you're starting Bryce Young every week.
Right. So start 10, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 3 flex, 1 quarterback, and a super flex. So exactly what we were assuming. And we got this comment in the chat. And Nubs, y'all crazy. 110 for Walker is a steal. I mean,
what up, Timmy?
If you think so, that's fine, Timmy, but I think you're crazy. I don't think Kenneth Walker, I think maybe he's an RB2 tier.
Yeah, he's
it's just not new coaching staff, new offense.
That's right. They didn't pick up Ken Walker, and last year Seattle picked up Charbonnet just because they might not have faith in Ken Walker.
Exactly.
He's a less sexy, less explosive Achane if Achane had a comparable draft capital running back breathing down his neck.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to the tight end. And I'm really sad that I have to say that you got to sell this guy, but it's Pat Freiermuth, man. I had a lot of hope for this dude. I drafted a ton of him, but I think it's time to move on. Arthur Smith is now the offensive coordinator. So they went from Matt Canada, who was horrible, to Arthur Smith, who's probably going to be even worse. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. For some reason, they seem to still believe in Kenny Pickett. There's a whole lot of talk about them trying to acquire another quarterback. I've got him at tight end 9 right now. That holds until we know what Arthur Smith's going to do. We know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go sign Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, probably
and
so.
The minute that happens, he's probably out of the tight end 1 tier for me.
I'll tell you what, they can't get worse than Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett's got like a 17-12 touchdown to interception ratio over the few years that he's been in the league. It's just awful. If your tight end doesn't have a chance of scoring touchdowns, then he doesn't have a chance of starting for you. I think that when you talk about a player as a sell, you have to talk about what you can sell them for. And I just don't know that you can get much for Freiermuth, which makes me think he's more of a hold because his situation is going to get better. Matt Canada was a terrible offensive coordinator coach, and Arthur Smith was a terrible head coach. He was a decent offensive coordinator, and he might be a better offensive coordinator. Just the Steelers will definitely have a better offense than Arthur Smith had in Atlanta. I think that Pat Freiermuth has a good chance of hitting 7 or 8 touchdowns this year. I'd almost put him as a buy just if you want to relate what you've seen him go for recently. We've got Jatavius Sanders is the tight end 2 of this class. I think he's probably going to be around 206. I don't know who I'd rather have in Freiermuth versus the tight end 2 of this class. And I don't know what Freiermuth is going for, but that's really the key piece of information is what's on the other side of the trade.
You're looking at, you can get a 2024 early second, right around in there. He's a lot of package deals where it's like Mahomes and Nick Chubb for Freiermuth, a 2024 first and a 2024 second. Packages like that. He's kind of
Mahomes is on the other side of that?
Mahomes and Chubb for Freiermuth, a first and a second. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, good God. This trade has about 35 parts. I can't even begin to read that.
Okay.
Pat Freiermuth straight up for Ramondre Stevenson. I'd sell him for Ramondre. I think Ramondre's about to have kind of a comeback. Chris Godwin straight up for Pat Freiermuth. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
I'd take Chris Godwin as well.
Yep. I'd do that in a heartbeat. And then Freiermuth for, Trey McBride, a 2024 second and a 2024 third.
How are people adding to Trey McBride to get to Freiermuth? That doesn't make any sense. These trades that we're pulling up are wonky. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I know, man. Well, that's why we're here, because we're telling you that these trades are wonky. We're telling you what to do and how to handle this. That's why you should be watching.
To your league, do it.
Exactly. All right, guys, that about does it for us. I want to thank everyone who tuned in for all of the comments and the questions. We always appreciate those, and we love answering them for you. Make sure you're following us on X, formerly known as Twitter, of course, at FFDinoDiehards, at Razzball, at Nate Polvogt, and at Matt Chester. And if we did not get to a question of yours today, or you're catching this show here after we were live, go ahead and hit us up at FFDinoDiehards. You can hit us in the DMs, and we will answer your questions there. We love to help. That's what we're all here for. And I think it's time to get out of here, buddy. What do you think?
I agree. Let's go do some
It's Friday. Go enjoy your Friday, folks.
All right.